In today's video, I've got the Lyric Mute from TrumCor. What's going on, everyone? My name is Josh Rzepka, and welcome to this Tuesday edition of Mute Monday. If you're new around here, Mute Monday is a series where I discuss and demonstrate different trumpet mutes. Today, I'm very excited to be sharing this Lyric Mute from TrumCor. Many orchestral trumpet players call this mute the job saver, and that is for a very good reason. I just got off a 30-minute call with Richard John Julio. He is the owner of TrumCor, and we talked about the Lyric Mute and TrumCor everything. So I'm really excited to share all this history and great information with you. And of course, I will be playing and demonstrating this mute so you know how it sounds and what to expect and if this is the right mute for you. Now, to properly tell the story of this mute, we've got to go all the way back to the early 1990s. And at the time, Richard was nearing the end of his 32-year tenure as principal trumpet of the Dallas Symphony. Just incredible. And he was giving a master class in Israel. And that is when the idea for this mute popped in his mind. And he jotted down some ideas, and he got home, and he went into his wood shop. And him and his son, they put this mute together. They started building prototypes. And he gave it to his section mates, and they workshopped it until it was perfect. Up until that point, there wasn't a really great lyric soft mute. Something that you could use for that Shostakovich piano concerto, something for bolero, something that you could use for all of these pieces where you needed a soft, muted trumpet, but you still needed that articulation. You still needed the core. You still needed to feel in control. This is a mute that you can play where you don't necessarily have to play really soft to get a soft sound. You can still have the energy and the body and the fullness of the sound and articulation while using this mute, but it's going to be at a lower volume, and you're going to hear all of that. Now, as I said, he put this mute together in his woodshop, and he's had a woodshop his entire life. This is a hobby that he has always had, and he grew up in an Italian family in Philly. His uncle was a woodworker. He was always around a woodshop, and he got a lot of tools from his uncle. So it's not like he just suddenly bought some tools and started making mutes out of wood. He had this experience being in woodshops his whole life. By the time he started making this mute, when he designed it, he already had a mute company. So to get to the beginning of TrumCor, we're going to have to go back just a little bit further. In the Dallas Symphony, Richard sat next to the first horn player, and that was Greg Hustis. And Greg had a practice mute that he loved. However, it broke. And he reached out to the company, and he said, "Hey, my mute broke. I need a new one." And basically, the guy who was running the company told him, "Well, I'm not really doing that anymore. I'm out of the mute business, basically." So him and Richard, they went out to Baltimore, and they ended up buying the company from him. And after they bought it from him, they decided to call it TrumCor, which is two words, tromba and corno. So the Italian words for trumpet and horn mashed together. And if you check out the logo, you'll see that is a horn and a trumpet overlapped, kind of built into each other. Now, when they bought this company, there were not a lot of trumpet mute designs. In fact, there was only one trumpet mute, but there were a lot of horn designs, tuba mute designs, and even a trombone cup mute design. So there were a lot of mutes to work with, but it wasn't until they got the company that he started adding all these trumpet designs. And that's where we're going to bring in Chris Legault, who is the master craftsman at TrumCor, and he really helped design a lot of the trumpet mutes, and he builds them, he puts these together, and this Lyric Mute, this is incredible. Just to illustrate how popular and how ubiquitous this mute is in the trumpet world, they just sold number 11,200 this last week. So there are a lot of these mutes out in the wild all over the world. I would venture to say that every major orchestra in the whole world, someone in the section, if not the whole section, has got one of these mutes. You gotta have it. It is a necessary mute. Now, I mentioned when they bought this company, there was only one trumpet mute, and that was a straight mute, which they now call the Super Stealth, and they've changed it. They've put a cork that goes all the way around, and it's kind of like a practice mute. It's a soft mute. I don't have one of those, but maybe one of these days I will do a video with one of those. But that is really the only OG, that's the only original trumpet mute design that they had. Everything else they came up with in the years since. And TrumCor has a couple core principles that they really stand behind with all of the mutes that they design and manufacture. And that is intonation, response, and sound. It's got to have all three of those. Otherwise, they're not going to sell it. And all you've got to do is look around and look at your colleagues and see how many of them have got some TrumCor mutes. And play some for yourself, and you will realize that they are really making some excellent mutes. Now, let's check this mute out up close. Look at the design of this mute. It's kind of got a barrel at the bottom. It's totally flat, and then it just goes right into the bell, and you're going to see in just a moment how close it goes into the bell. You want to get it really tight into the bell, so you may need to file the corks a little bit, and when it is tight into the bell, you're going to get a great response, great articulation, intonation. It is designed to be put into the bell pretty tight. You don't want it to be too open, otherwise you're not going to get that sound dampening effect. This design allows the mute to speak and play properly when it is tight into the bell. Now, the material of this is a fiber material. I think there's a wood resonator here on the bottom, and I believe there is also a wood disc resonator inside. It does not feel heavy in the bell at all. It is very, very light. And because of the material, it's got a nice open sound, a great clean articulation, and it doesn't have a bright edge to it like a metal mute would. So let's hear how this mute sounds. All right, so you've just heard this mute, and what did you think? Let me know in the comments below. I'm really interested to know. And if you've got one of these, what do you use it for? Write that in the comments below as well. Now, right off the bat, you can hear this mute is such a good mute. The evenness of sound from low to high, it is terrific. The intonation, terrific. The articulation, terrific. This is a very even and dependable mute. The entire range of the trumpet you can use with this mute. From a low F sharp all the way past a high C, this mute is going to perform, and it is really going to help you get the sound that you need for those circumstances where you've got to be soft. It's no wonder why this mute is called the job saver. If you compare this to a straight mute, you're just going to hear the straight mute is going to be so much brighter. It's going to be so much louder. It is really hard to play as soft as you can get on this mute with practically any other straight mute that would be out there. And even if you do take a great straight mute that you already have and you play really soft, you're not going to have the energy to the articulation. You're not going to have the fullness and core to the sound as you would with this, because this mute allows you to play with a greater energy into the horn, but it just takes your sound and it just turns the dial down. It just really makes it softer and a little more focused and compact, and it allows you to play what you need to play, whether you're in an ensemble or whether you're playing some solo literature where you need a really soft muted sound. This mute is going to get you across the finish line, and it's really just going to make your job easier. And at the end of the day, we want to get the job done right. We don't want to have to work any harder than we need to. And, it really helps just to have that sense of security and, knowing that you can do something with ease. And to me, that's the strength of this mute. That is why so many people love this mute, why they call it the job saver, and why just this last week they sold number 11,200. This mute, it is everywhere. So if you don't have one of these, you should strongly consider checking this mute out, particularly if you are playing in an orchestra, wind ensemble, if you are a soloist. This mute is for you. Well, that's all I've got for you today. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments below. And while you're at it, hit that like and subscribe button. It really makes a very big difference. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.